in the right place. At Clarity Corner with Christiana, we peel back the layers that are clouding your ability to see and show you ways you can reclaim your life and your communication. It's not what you know, it's what you implement that makes all the difference. Welcome to Clarity Corner with Christiana. So fantastic to be here with you today. We have a very special show. Today, let me ask you, have you ever rushed into solving a problem only to end up off track or have it explode into another problem? Today, we're going to be talking about problems. Now, we often mistake problems for the symptom or the solution. Oftentimes because we're anxious to get them solved or we really want to get a quick outcome. And so what we do is we rush that first step and we don't clearly identify what the problem is. And that is actually called the problem statement. And my guest today is my favorite person in the whole wide world. He has been a senior global automation engineer manager with Jabil, and he's been in this industry for nearly 30 years. And he has done everything from manage teams, bring products to market. He develops processes and troubleshoots processes. He's the guy that you call if there's an escalation, something's not working and they need to figure out what happened and how to fix it. He's that guy. And he also works with the team directly from once the design coming through all the way. So I hope I said that correctly. This gentleman is, like I said, my favorite person. He is actually my husband. So please welcome Freddie Agnir.
Thank you for the introduction, Anna.
Well, I love you. I have to give you good credit. It's been 6 months and you haven't been on the show yet. So I have to give you a warm welcome. So
thank you.
I found a recording back from 2018 when you and I were talking, and we were talking about this problem statement. And the biggest issue in your industry is, and this is in every industry, is that how do you actually correctly identify the problem? So can you tell people first, what is a problem statement?
Sure. I mean, at the root of it, right, the problem statement is the definition of what the problem is. Unfortunately, per your previous statement, one of the biggest challenges that we have in any industry is that too many people put their effort into solving symptoms or coming up with a solution that really doesn't address the problem statement. So it ends up being that there's a recurring problem over and over again because they just haven't addressed the actual root, the problem statement itself.
Absolutely. And I see that also when I do my clarity work, right? As I'm building or working with people, there's patterns that emerge over and over because they haven't actually solved what the root cause of the problem is. So they keep repeating it in some fashion.
Yeah. And I think if, I know you like to quote different philosophers and stuff. And Albert Einstein said that if he had 1 hour and 1 hour only to solve the problems of the universe, he'd spend 59 minutes thinking about what the problem statement is, and then 1 minute to resolve. And I think all of us should really take a look at that. Maybe it's not supposed to be that kind of ratio, but more effort up front in trying to figure out what the problem statement is will help to stave off a lot of the miscommunications, challenges, and repetitive problems.
Absolutely. Can you give us an example from your industry? So you are the person that gets called in for escalations where, they've gone through the whole process and something's not working or something gets clogged up and you have to come in and figure it out.
Yeah, so this happens all the time. For example, what I do is I develop process to assemble things. And once we get into production, the concept is that if you do the same things over and over and over again, everything should repeat correctly, right? If all the materials come in the correct way, if all the process is the correct method, then everything should end up the same as you keep on repeating these things. And quite often what happens is that something will come up, maybe a measurement is wrong, maybe the parts don't go together well, and invariably somebody will start tweaking the machine and start fiddling around with buttons because they think that's going to be the quickest way to get to a solution. They're trying to find a solution to like a Band-Aid type of solution. And so what ends up happening is I and my team and other people that work with the same method that I do, they'll kind of go all the way back and say, listen, where were you before? And what changed? You have process, did we change that? You have materials coming in, did we change that? The moment you start changing other things, now you're beyond the first problem. Whatever the problem was, there was something that changed. Now you change something else. Now you've got two problems, compounding problems. So this happens in every industry. It's not like it only happens in mine. It happens in the music industry. It happens in banking. The same thing.
Excellent. And then, you even had a premise in there too that at some point it was working before.
You're right. Especially if something is already working, then it should be easy to find out what the problem statement is, right? Unfortunately, in other cases, you start off with nothing's working yet, and therefore you have to go through some kind of process development phase, which is a whole different discussion, really.
Well, and a lot of times with the work that I do with the clarity is I'll take somebody who's having a big challenge being organized and they can't figure it out and they have a block saying, well, it's just never working. Like nothing I do works. And then what I'll do is I'll find something that is actually working and then map that strategy over the part that's not working. So then we have a place where we already have built-in success.
I think that you do this better than anybody in a different way. Mine is on the technical side, obviously. Yours is from the personality side. And you have to kind of figure out a different kind of problem statement because each person has their own personality and therefore they have their own, if you want to call it, a problem statement or just a challenge of their personality and how it relates to organization. And everybody's, solution is going to be unique to that individual. Just to keep on praising you as I always do, because you're amazing at what you do.
Thank you, honey.
Finding each individual's problem statement, if you want to call it that, or what triggers them so that you can come up with solutions is the same type of idea. If you just attack the symptoms, you're going to have the same problems over and over again in their organization.
Absolutely. Well, and every time that I do something, I like to give an example in order to make it useful because I always say you're only as useful as your content is implementable. So if I can't use your information, it's just data poisoning, right? More things that are just occupying space in my brain, which is a problem in and of itself. So let's make it useful to people. And what's an example, like a simple example that people can use to just start understanding the muscle of the problem statement?
So here's a couple techniques I do. Here's one technique I do. One technique I do is called root cause analysis. That's a very technical thing. But if a problem has come up, for example, somebody says that the problem is that a woman is hounding him for money, right? So the technique is called the 5 whys. Ask yourself, why? Because that can't be the problem. That can't be the problem statement that a person is hounding him for money. But in his mind, that is the problem, right? He just wants to get away from it.
Right.
And you have to ask why. So the first why, why is this person hounding you for money? And then there'll be a question, because I owe her money. And then ask another why. Why do you owe her money? Because I borrowed it from 20 years ago. Why did you borrow it 20 years ago? You can go on until you kind of stop and get to a root cause. And in this case, the root cause really is he owes her the money that he borrowed from 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Just doesn't want to pay it. But in his mind, the problem is this woman is a pain in the ass and she's trying to get the money from me.
Right. Okay. Well, you were saying something like as simple as losing your keys.
Sure. So here's a challenge that everybody has as a couple or whatever, losing your keys. And so in the morning, you're rushing, you try to get out of the house and you can't find your keys. That seems to be the problem, right? And if somebody in the house tries to solve that problem, they've got a couple of choices. And one of the choices, especially I'm going to say that from nurturing people, to try to get the quick Band-Aid so that their partner can feel better and just get along and onto his day, and maybe he can come back later to it, right?
So that solution he's alluding to is, I say, just take my keys, but that's not the solution.
Right. Unfortunately, as somebody that on my third position is blueprint, and because I'm trying to get out of the house, I have to default to process. Where did I put my keys? Where do I normally put my keys? Where did I put it last night? I normally do this and I normally do that. I'm pretty high stress. And then my first leg is first and second leg, action and knowledge. My second one is knowledge. I want to know what happened, right? And so from my point of view, that's the problem statement. I've lost my keys and need to find out where in the process I went wrong and where they actually are, right? Whereas some of that might be more nurturing. The problem statement is, you have to get out of here. You've got someplace to go. Please let me help you get out of here. And so neither are wrong, but both are attacking from a different point of view based on their personality.
And another take on that too is the problem statement for losing your keys is that you actually don't have a system.
Absolutely.
Right. So maybe like if you're looking at it from more of a systemic viewpoint, your problem statement really could be, I don't have a system. Let me hang up a board where I hang my keys every time I come in the house. And then I know that that's my system. Or put the Apple AirTag on your keys. You can find them wherever they go. Right. But again, it's like, what is the system? So maybe that could that be? So let's address the problem statement to this, right? So the problem statement could be like, the simple solution is, well, just take my keys. Well, that's not actually solving it. That's creating another problem because now there's more time and you have more time to forget where you actually had them, right? And the symptom is because your action, like you said, action, knowledge, blueprint. So the action is quick, save time. So you want it fast. You want to know where it is and what broke down. You don't want to, if it takes more than just a couple minutes, it sets you off.
And to all of that, that's excellent. If you ask that 5 why type of those questions, you will get down to that point where the reason why you keep on losing keys, because this is not a one-time thing. Most of us will lose our keys once a month at least, right? That, again, to your example, maybe you need to come up with a systematic way because there is no system on a daily basis of what many people do with their keys. A lot of people do and a lot of people don't. Well, I would say that the vast majority of people have their keys put in their pocket in the last piece of clothing they have, or on a table, and not just that table, any table, because they happen to be there when they put their hands down. So you're absolutely correct. And like I said, if you do the 5 whys, if everybody did a 5 why analysis when they lose their keys, they're going to come up with, I don't have a daily systematic process of where I put my keys.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to dive deeper into this so people can really, again, this is going to save you time. It's going to save you money. It's going to save you energy and resources. So we're going to dive in when we get back from break. So just stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Want more out of your doctor's visit than a quick conversation with the doc with limited time? Dr. Jaggers-Keene is the one-stop doc who treats you like family. From broken bones to slips and falls, he has you covered along with annual exams. This physician provides VIP concierge treatment at no extra cost. Dr. Keene offers comfort in a setting that provides answers. His new Largo family practice is accepting new patients. Fluent in Spanish, he offers telemedicine too. Go to mychoicehealthcare.org or call 727-732-3969 for your appointment today.
Are you hoping to grow your business but not sure how? Has your business flattened out? It may be your messaging. This is Maureen Famiano with MEF Media. I've been in the TV broadcasting business for more than 30 years, and I enjoy helping businesses and entrepreneurs go to the next level. It's about strategy and branding, finding the right story to tell, and then getting media exposure. I'm here to help you grow your business. Find me on Facebook or my website at MEF Media, and let's launch your next chapter today.
A few years ago, my skin was a mess. It was dry, lifeless, and aging fast. My busy travel schedule teaching yoga across the world was really catching up on me. I tried everything I could find. It just got worse. So I created my own product based on 100% natural ingredients. And what a difference. Now my skin is glowing and radiant, and I look and feel 10 years younger. The serum I used is called F3. It's our best seller, and I've created a whole range of products to suit all skin types. So if you want actual results using 100% natural skincare, visit formulaflawless.com.
Don't turn it off now. You need this stuff. Tampa Bay's Tan Talk Radio Network.
Welcome back to Clarity Corner with Christiana. Thank you so much for being here. I have special guest Freddie Agnir on the line with me today, and we are talking about the problem statement. The problem, when you have a problem in your business, in your life, do you rush quickly to find a solution so you can keep moving, or do you actually get to the root problem? And let's talk about that. Freddie, you were talking about the root cause analysis. So what is the root cause analysis?
Yeah, that is the method, and it could be any number of ways, but it's a method of trying to come down to what exactly the problem statement is. In my earlier quote that I talked about Albert Einstein, he said to spend 59 minutes of the hour that he has to solve a problem in trying to analyze what the problem is, all right? And therefore, the analysis can be different ways, but I discussed the 5 why analysis, which is you keep on asking why. If there's a perceived problem, ask why is that a problem? And if there's another reason why that's a problem, ask why that is a problem. I keep on asking until you've gotten down to a very root of why we have this problem to begin with. But all of these types of analysis of what the root of the problem is, you do these things to try to find out what the actual problem statement is.
And you do this in your business on a daily basis.
Yeah, not just from a technical standpoint, not from a manufacturing standpoint, but there are HR issues that we have to deal with. There are financial issues that we have to deal with, and they all are kind of the same. If there's a problem, try to drill down to what the root cause is before you start to try to solve the problem, because usually what you think the problem is just a symptom, and you end up band-aiding if you just try to solve the symptom.
Well, Freddie, isn't that like, was it Benjamin Franklin said that if he had, a certain amount of time to chop a tree, he'd spend the majority of the time sharpening the saw?
Sure.
It's the same principle, right? Where you want to spend the time up front. You don't want to rush to the solution because you may be running enthusiastically in the wrong direction and actually creating another problem on top of it. So instead of let's say you have a fence and your fence is starting to bow. Instead of fixing the fence and finding out what the true problem is, you get a piece of board and you prop it up. You see this all the time with trees that are falling over, right? Somebody jacks up a board. Well, what happens is that's okay for a short term, but then eventually the tree gets too heavy or the fence gets too heavy and then that breaks down. Then you have another problem, right? So you have one solution propping up another solution, propping up another solution. Before you know it, you're so far from the problem, you can't even identify it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very excellent example, whether it's a tree or a mailbox, that if you solve the problem just by the symptom, the thing is leaning over, so you kind of prop it up. You really need to literally dig down to the root cause to find out. It's usually something in the ground, right?
Mm-hmm.
Painting, people will paint a chair or a wall, and if the paint chips off, a lot of people will just try to solve the symptom and paint right over it. But there's usually a root cause. You have to ask, why is paint not sticking on there? And as you keep on asking, and whether it's some kind of surface prep you have to do, whatever the problem is, and it could be some other problem. It could be that there's moisture getting behind the wallboard back there. But whatever it is, there is a root cause of why paint will not stick continually and continuously on a wall or in a chair. You can keep on painting, but you'll still have the problem coming up over and over again. And it's the same type of root cause analysis so that you can get to a problem statement.
Excellent. So let's dive in. Let's say that we had talked about this ages ago, and I thought it was a great example that we came up with where we're building a widget. And what you were saying, the first step when you have something is you want people to tell you the situation, tell me what's going on, right? What's the story? So we can, right? So if we're building a widget, what's the story? And the strategy that we had laid out years ago was We have a product. We put the product in a box. We put the box on a pallet, and we stack up all the boxes on a pallet, and then we put corner boards up, and then we shrink wrap the pallet. And then we ship that to the next destination where the person has to do something with it. I guess the sterilizer or whatever. So that's the scenario. Then what we find is that person we shipped it to calls us and says the product was damaged. Right?
Okay.
So that's the first step. Then at that point, right, is that yet the problem statement? Or 2 days later, FedEx calls and says, hey, we just wanted to let you know your product was damaged in shipment. So it arrived at the destination already damaged.
Already damaged, sure.
So most people, if they were addressing that, how would you then go about drilling down for a problem statement for that scenario?
Yeah, what you said before, that the first thing to do is to ask, what is going on? What exactly is going on? Can you tell me what, in your opinion, is going on? And you ask everybody. It's data collecting. In fact, if anytime there is a problem and somebody walks in and tries to give you a solution without asking you first some basic questions of what exactly is going on, tell me everything you can, then they're not doing you any favors. They're just band-aiding, right? So for sure, in this particular situation, you already have a couple of different data points. You have the FedEx guy saying it's already got damage here, and you have this final area where whether it's a sterilizer or whatever, you've got damage there. So you just keep on looking back and taking a look and asking, what else is going on? Where wasn't it damaged? And then when you can find out where it wasn't damaged versus where it is damaged, now you can at least start looking at, if we have a problem statement, we can say where it's happening and where it's not happening.
So it left the warehouse completely fine.
Yep.
And it arrived, and then it was damaged within the shipment.
Sure.
Within FedEx.
Anywhere between the time it leaves your dock to the time it gets to FedEx.
Right.
Whether you're saying the FedEx warehouse, and a lot of things can happen, right? The truck that takes it, the guy with the fork truck who lifts it out of the manufacturing floor and into the truck, inside the truck while the truck is traveling, and then when you get to the final location, the reverse, unloading the truck from the truck into FedEx. There's so many things that can happen there, and therefore you start having to look, where don't you see the damage? A lot of problem solving, the easiest way to find out where things aren't going wrong, so you can kind of eliminate those, so we don't start trying to come up with solutions that don't really make sense.
Well, I like what you said about, and this is in my experience as a clarity person, people always try to give you a quick solution. It's like if you go to the doctor and you say, oh my gosh, I'm sick, and they hand you antibiotics without actually doing a debrief to find out what's going on, right? They're searching for that root cause. Like, is it a viral thing? Is it an antibiotic? What kind of antibiotic do you need, right? They have to really they have to take your history. They have to make sure you're not allergic. So you have all these different experiences. And what I love about what you're talking about is people aren't asking enough questions up front, generally.
Yeah.
Right. And this is where this has been your pet peeve in your industry and my frustration in my industry, because all I do is ask questions in my industry. Right. I mean, that's all I do is get, well, what about this? And what about this? I just had a client the other day and she wanted to build a program. And I said, what do you want? She goes, well, I'd like some coaching and I want it to be this much. And I'm like, what do you want? She goes, well, I took this program and I did this. And I said, well, what's your outcome? Like, what's important to you? And it was amazing is just taking that time to say, well, what matters to you? What advice do you give people? What does it look like? And just really pulling that information out. We actually got a whole path of what she wants to teach that's completely irrelevant to the tools that she has. So instead of her pitching somebody else's tools as her own, or not as her own, but as pitching someone else's tools, she has her own coaching that she uses all these different tools to support.
Yeah. Now, I don't want people to get the wrong idea here. It is perfectly acceptable to come up with a quick solution, as long as we all understand that that is a temporary and quick solution, and that we're going to work towards the real problem, the problem statement, and do some root cause analysis. So that quick solution, we like to call that the containment solution, right? So that.
Okay, so the containment solution?
the containment solution. So if some kind of problem is happening, we do something to contain so that we don't have further issues based on this one example. But at the same time, well, now we start doing some root cause analysis to find out what the real problem is and define the problem statement.
So then in the example that we're giving about the widget that we're building, so then we would then look at the person who runs the pallet machine, getting, moving the boxes from the warehouse into the truck, then the truck into shipping. So we can start identifying with FedEx, where did it actually break down? Did it get damaged? Well, did they damage it with their pallet moving, shipping stuff, or did they get it already damaged?
Well, I think that's part of the root cause analysis. What I would say would be a containment solution is to take that box and rewrap it. And if we had to disassemble the entire package and then put more corner boards and rewrap that, then that would be the containment solution. But that's that temporary solution. In our lost key type of solution, that temporary solution, the containment solution, is absolutely your solution. Hand me your keys.
Mm-hmm.
But then the next question would be, how do we root cause analysis to do, the process type of what is the problem statement? And of course, where were my keys?
Right. So where were they? And then do they have a place? Can we give them an identified place in the house so that way you can always find them?
And that would be the solution to the problem, right? The problem.
Oh, but see, I just rushed the solution. See, I'm not immune. I always like to teach and share things that I'm still learning. Because again, I'm very quick. I want to get to an outcome, and I'm not alone. I see that with all of my clients, right? They want to get, and it takes time to actually identify what the problem statement is. And I have to say, full disclosure, you're constantly saying to me, okay, hold on. Right? I'll own it.
Right. But that's the beauty of it. If you understand your personality or your partner's personality, then it doesn't have to be a fight. It doesn't have to be an argument.
Mm-hmm.
You know that the other person it's not like you have bad intentions in trying to give me your keys. And it's not like I have bad intentions to try to get to the root of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, one is our personalities, and two, what is more important at that moment. I do think that because you are a nurturing person, it's much more important that I get to where I needed to go. And I love you for that. That's, I hope everybody has a partner like that.
Thank you. Well, and this really does come back down to personality as well, because oftentimes we think that the problem statement is the person when their operating system is different than our operating system. And the problem really is, how are we engaging?
Yeah.
Right. Because oftentimes if you have somebody that, so again, the 4 personalities that Freddie is talking about, actions like mover, shaker, really, really quick, 1 speed, full speed, they're always busy. Ask a busy person, that person, right? And they're always wanting freedom, flexibility. The blueprint is, think of blueprint or plans, right? They want that structure, that system, that stability, that structure, right? They want no risk or less risk. Then you have the nurturing, and all they want is to connect. They want to make a difference, and they want to have connection, and they want to volunteer and help. And then you have the knowledge, where they just need information. They need information, and they need to see the big picture. And they're data collectors. They love data, right? They want to know how to chunk information. So if you understand those 4 different points, each person's going to approach this problem statement differently. And if you don't understand that, oftentimes the problem is you have different operating systems and you don't know what the other person's is.
Correct.
Right? Which is why communication is so important for me, because you used to get frustrated with me until I started adopting the bank methodology. And then now you can say to me, honey, that's a nurturing activity, not an action activity. We need to shift it.
Absolutely.
Right. So now we have language around it, so we don't actually have a problem. I remember you would get really frustrated with me, and I didn't understand. You were like, or my favorite one with you and I, which you can say from your viewpoint, the problem is that when we decide to go out to dinner, but we don't have a place chosen. And you can tell them that.
Yes, so Christiana always is asking me, often will ask me about going out to dinner. Do you want to go out? And that's the question. And my answer is, yeah, I want to go out. Let's go out. And to her nurturing nature, she wants to find out where I'd like to go. And she starts listing off, do you want to go here? Do you want to go there? To me, there was a problem. The problem statement was whether I wanted to go out to dinner. And the answer, as an action person, I already gave her, yes. I don't need to find out, or it's not important to me where we go, because one, I wasn't the one who asked, right? Christiana was the one who asked, and therefore I said, yes, I want to go out. And so my action style is, that's it, that's the answer, let's go. Her nurturing style is to find out where I want to go, even though I wasn't the one who actually brought up going out to dinner.
Yeah. And then on that viewpoint, I have to feel into it. I have to be like, I don't know. Should we go to the beach? Do you want to go inland? Do you want to go where we have a view? And he's just like, if you don't pick a place in the next 30 seconds, I'm done. Because what I'm doing is, by doing that, I'm actually creating a bigger problem.
Right. Now the problem is there are so many choices. What's the choice of all those choices? And that wasn't the previous problem statement. That would created something else. And to have that many choices for an action person doesn't work out for that personality.
Yeah. So long as it's not Mexican, we're good. I've given up an entire style of eating that I used to have because it's not his favorite. But outside of Mexican, we're good. I can pick whatever I want. So
it makes it easy.
Exactly. So the biggest challenge with this is people rush into a solution. So let me ask you, if you're having frustration, miscommunications, or issues in your business, the goal is to look at the problem statement. So Freddie, let's give them a system to follow. Let's give them something that they can utilize. So make sure, if you're not driving, grab a pen and paper, and let's lay down a really quick thing. So first, you want to probably would you say identify, just kind of write down what the story is a little bit, right? So you can kind of just identify the different points of it. Would that be?
Yeah. I think first is you write down what you think the problem is.
Okay. So what you think the problem is, I'm writing this as we do this. So what you think the problem is. Okay, great. So first you write what you think the problem is. Okay. And then what do we do? And
then take a look. This is the story. Try to get as much data as you can, whatever data is, whether it's words, pictures, views, or whatever, as much information as you can. And this can be a formal process, or it can just be, I'm taking a look around type of process.
Okay. So if my story involves other people, then I would get their viewpoint on it as well as part of my data gathering.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Just so that way I'm not just looking at it from my lens and my personality. So we just identified with the keys. How I handle that is just get you where you need to go, and then we'll address it when we have time. And yours is, you can't move forward without having the answer.
Having some kind of answer, sure. All right.
Right. Okay. So then, all right. So we're going to gather as much data. So first, write down what you think the problem is, and then get as much data as you can. Doesn't have to be formal, can be informal, but make sure multiple viewpoints.
Right.
Okay. And then what?
And then you start doing a root cause analysis. Try to find out what is the real problem, define what the real problem is. And you can use a technique like asking the 5 whys.
Okay.
Another method is to find out where the problem is not.
For example,
you'd like to call it analytical troubleshooting. If you can identify where the problem is not happening, then you can start ruling out some of those things.
Oh, so if you have, if it was damaged, so back to the shipping example, if it left the factory fine, if it arrived to FedEx undamaged, but it arrived at the shipper damaged, then we can say, oh, well, we don't have to worry about our process. We're good. Now it's the shipping piece. So we can identify where the problem is occurring.
We can identify where it's not occurring, so that we can start not having so much noise, I guess you could say, when you're trying to identify the problem.
Excellent. Okay. So we are going to continue this process, so you'll have a solution. Make sure you stay tuned. We're going to be heading to break right now. We'll be right back.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
A few years ago, my skin was a mess. It was dry, lifeless, and aging fast. My busy travel schedule teaching yoga across the world was really catching up on me. I tried everything I could find, and it just got worse. So I created my own product based on 100% natural ingredients, and what a difference. Now my skin is glowing and radiant, and I look and feel 10 years younger. The serum I used is called F3. It's our best seller, and I've created a whole range of products to suit all skin types. So if you want actual results using 100% natural skincare, visit formulaflawless.com.
Want more out of your doctor's visit than a quick conversation with the doc with limited time? Dr. Jaggers-Keene is the one-stop doc who treats you like family. From broken bones to slips and falls, he has you covered along with annual exams. This physician provides VIP concierge treatment at no extra cost. Dr. Keene offers comfort in a setting that provides answers. His new Largo family practice is accepting new patients. Fluent in Spanish, he offers telemedicine too. Go to mychoicehealthcare.org or call 727-732-3969 for your appointment today.
Are you hoping to grow your business but not sure how? Has your business flattened out? It may be your messaging. This is Maureen Famiana with MEF Media. I've been in the TV broadcasting business for more than 30 years, and I enjoy helping businesses and entrepreneurs go to the next level. It's about strategy and branding, finding the right story to tell, and then getting media exposure. I'm here to help you grow your business. Find me on Facebook or my website at MEF Media, and let's launch your next chapter today.
Don't turn it off now. You need this stuff. Tampa Bay's Tan Talk Radio Network.
Welcome back to Clarity Corner with Christiana. I am here with Freddie Agnir, and we are on our last segment. We are talking about how do you actually figure out what your problem is. So first, there's two types of problems. First, when you have the problem, there's a containment solution, which is the quick solution that you're going to have. But we don't stop there. Yes, Freddie?
You really want to find the root cause, the initial problem.
So we need to so the containment is the quick solution just to stop the bleeding of whatever the problem is. And then the next one is then we find the problem statement. And then we're looking for the root cause with the problem statement, correct?
Yes, and stopping the bleeding is an excellent example, right? So if you actually, if are somebody that bleeds a lot, then the first containment is to bandage up and do pressure. But something caused that, and if you don't address what caused it, you're bound to have to get a lot more Band-Aids going.
Absolutely. So the first is you want to write down. So guys, make sure you have a pen and paper and write this down. So first you want to write down what you think the problem is. So you take your best guess, right? What do you think it is? Now, oftentimes we mistake that for the solution or symptom. But again, this is part of the process, getting it out, correct?
Correct.
Okay. The next is then you said get as much data as you can.
Correct.
Okay. And then the third, you just started explaining root cause analysis. Right.
And a couple different ways of root cause analysis is one is called the 5 whys. You keep on asking, why is this problem a problem? And then if there's an answer to that, then you ask, why is that a problem? And you keep on asking they say 5 whys, but several why questions until you get to what is the root of the problem. And then that's the problem you start to attack for the long term.
Excellent. And then, so that's one way. So there's two ways that you can look at it. First is you can do the 5 whys. And then the next way that you can do it is what is the problem not?
Right. If you can take a look at where the problem isn't happening, it gives you more clarity of where the problem and what the problem really is.
Excellent. And then you had said something to me before, and I just want to, so once you get this, you can drill down to what the problem is, then you can get your problem statement. And then from there, you can go about solving it. One of the things that you talked to me about is looking at, is this unique? Right? You were talking to me about is this unique or is this a one-time problem?
Right, because if it's a one-time problem, it's awfully tough it's too much effort to try to solve a one-time unique thing.
Mm-hmm.
If we put up, let's say, defense mechanisms for water, water coming into our yard. And I think this is probably what you were talking about, right? We had a bad rainstorm last year, and they were back to back. And it's not that it never happens, but that was the one time it's happened in 3 years, right? So we had some flooding of the backyard,
Right.
and that is a problem. And the question really is, do you want to put as much effort? How much effort do you want to put in solving that problem if it only happens once every 3 years? And then what is the solution, right? Do you want the most extravagant solution with French drains and digging up the backyard and putting all sand in there and somehow getting all that water out of there for the once in 3 years? Or is there other solutions that can come up?
Okay. Absolutely. Right. And what I love about that too is, again, we can pick any problem. And I would say practice this with just problems that you have, like simple ones, right? Like the goal is to start developing the muscle. And again, if it's a unique problem, how much do you want to invest in solving that if it's going to be a one-time thing? But then also if it's a problem other people are having, we can then look to others as a resource or industry standards.
I think you brought up something very good there. That what is the goal? You know, what are the outcomes? I know that's a kind of a word or a statement a question that you say often in your line of work. What is your desired outcome?
Yes.
Because now we're talking about finding solutions. Once you get the problem statement, you have to come up with a solution, and there doesn't have to be just one solution. All right. It all depends on what your desired outcome is.
Mm-hmm.
And back to, our water in the lawn problem, if our desired outcome is we never want to have water build up in our backyard ever again, that leads to one type of solution. If it's, hey, if this comes up again, let's at least reduce the water in our backyard as the problem.
Mm-hmm.
If that's our desired outcome, that has a different solution. So the solution is very much dependent on what your desired outcome is.
I love that too. And also too, when I'm looking at problems, I want to see, has anybody else had this problem as well? Right. So if I'm looking at the problem, I may think, oh, my problem is like we were talking about before, there was a client I had, and they had somebody who wanted a return of their product, and they were mad at the customer. But that wasn't the problem. Right. When we were digging deeper into that, it was that they never had a contract.
Yeah.
Right. So they never had a contract. So they had no leg to stand on as far as refunds. Right. They didn't have anything in writing. They didn't have anybody sign anything. And again, and the other part was there was no process to screen clients coming in. Right. There was no process on here's the process you're going to go through. There was nothing laid out. There was nothing in writing. So it was all very loosey-goosey. Well, again, it's like, can I look to what other people are doing to see if there's a standardization? And maybe if I can see what other people are doing, I can even maybe spot my problem. Is that something?
Yeah. So in this case, this goes back to what we've talked about for the past hour here. One part of the solution is going to be a containment solution. What do you do now for this particular instance with this woman who wants this refund?
Right.
The other is to address that root cause with a long-term solution, something systematic, so that you don't have this happen again. Or I should say, if the desired outcome is that you never want this to happen again, then there are solutions that you have to implement. If it's I'm going to let this happen again, it's only going to be once in a great while, then there's some other solution that you can implement, which is a lot less of a solution than most of us would like. But addressing and identifying the problem statement, the true problem statement, the root cause of the problem, that is imperative, or else he'll never get past this. As far as he's concerned, there's a woman who wants a refund, and that's the problem. And that's just way too short-sighted.
Exactly. And I love this. And thank you so much for really coming on. I mean, this is something that you deal with on a regular basis in your business. This is something that, oh my gosh, this is your standard operating procedure for work for the last, 30 years, almost 30 years.
30 years.
Yeah. Right. So it's like, I do it from a different vantage point where they come to me, they have a problem in its organization. And then I look at what's not working, and I look at where it's breaking down, and identify the point at which things go wrong. And then I look at the desired outcome, and then I create something that is already based on what they're already doing well, and I map it over it. But again, it's like every situation is different. And most of us in your industry and multiple industries, they rush to the problem and they end up solving for the wrong thing.
Yes, especially they wouldn't solve for the long term, especially without defining what the problem statement is and what the desired outcome is. And something you just touched upon, it's okay to come up with a quick solution if it's the same repeating problem that a person is doing over and over again. If you're a plumber, you're generally going to know what the problem is and you don't have to do an analysis. But like you said, every situation you're talking about, it's custom, it's unique to that individual. Everything's new, and therefore you don't have a process of problem solving like this. Then you're just guessing, and once in a while you hit it right, but most of the time you're going to have to step backwards because you're starting to go forward without addressing whatever that root cause is.
I did this with a client who was a marketing director, he had a marketing firm, and he wanted to take his company in a different direction. So we spent 2 hours together and we mapped out the entire strategy. What would it look like? What would it cost? What resources would he need? How would he have to shift his team? We spent all that time. We spent 2 hours like pulling apart every different aspect. How would this solve this problem? What would that look like? And we went through the whole thing. And what he realized at the end, I called him because I hadn't heard from him for a little bit. I called him back to follow up and I said, how'd it go? He said, well, I didn't end up using it. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. And he goes, no, are you kidding? He said, you saved me millions of dollars in a year off my business. And I said, well, tell me more. And he said, well, we would have gone enthusiastically in that direction. And it would have derailed my company and taken me a year to recover.
Yeah.
But we spent 2 hours just going through all the different pieces. What would happen? What would it look like? What would this be? And just by investing that time up front, he had an idea and we never took action, or he never took action on it because he realized it wasn't actually what he wanted to be doing.
I spent 59 minutes of the hour, doing all the study of what the problem is, and then the 1 minute to implement the solution.
Absolutely. So what I would say with you guys, if you're looking, you have a problem, practice this technique. Write down what you think the problem is. Get as much data as you can. You could do it, make it formal. You could make it informal, no problem. If there's other people involved, get their viewpoint on it. See, is this like a common thing in the industry? You can look at that as well. But again, you want to make sure you can do the root cause analysis. You can say, well, what are the 5 whys? What is this? What is this problem? Okay. And then dig deeper. And then if not, you can say, what is the problem not? So that way you can identify where the problem's actually happening. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Very cool. Then once you have the problem and you have the problem statement, now you have a much greater likelihood that you're actually on the real problem that you have. Then you can say, what is my desired outcome? And again, maybe you're hemorrhaging in your company and you're like, oh my God, I just need to stop the bleeding. You're like, okay, what's the quickest solution I can have? But make sure you come back and do the work because it's going to break open again. You just have to make sure that you stop what's going on while you address the bigger problem.
Correct.
Absolutely. So, Freddie, are there any final thoughts that you have on this for people, or especially, with personalities?
Sure. I mean, problems happen every single day. And once you start getting used to this way of attacking problems, it becomes easy. Some of you might be thinking that this is some high technical knowledge type of activity. It really isn't. Once you get used to it and make it a habit, do it a few times, it becomes a habit, it becomes easier. And you just start making that philosophy shift to what's the problem, what's the root cause, what's my desired outcome, and then go from there.
I love that. And again, each personality is a little bit different. Each personality has, different problems that they deal with. If we have the knowledge personality, often the time is they have too much information. They have too much information. And oftentimes they can get paralyzed with too much information. They get drowning. They get the data poisoning and data drowning. If you have the nurturing personality type, their problem is usually they're spread too thin. They're making everybody else a priority besides themselves. And they're doing too much. So they don't actually have enough time, or these people often can run late because they're trying to help and serve other people. The action, my gosh, they just want to get it done. Like they want the quick solution. They're like the containment solution every day of the week because they just don't have time for the big picture unless they plan it. And then the blueprint is they have the structure, but oftentimes they're unwilling to bend their structure.
Very good.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you understand that those are the people that you're dealing with, right? Oftentimes now you apply these viewpoints to the people that are handling the problems, right? If you have a knowledge person following your process, they might get too much in the data collection, right? So how would you advise them on that, right?
Yeah, so it's what you just said. You know, there's a point of diminishing returns of the information you're gathering. And if you are an information gatherer, I can't tell people when to stop, but I know when it's too much.
Exactly. So just be aware that if you're spending too much time, like set a fixed time. If you're a knowledge person and you love data, set a fixed time so then you get to the next step. Getting to the next step is really important for that. Right. And then again, the nurturing, they just want to talk about it all the time. Well, what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And they'll talk it to death. So again, really get into it and they want to do what feels good. So oftentimes, sometimes the solution isn't a feel good solution. It's just it's time to like step up and
do a solution.
Exactly. Right. And again,
action people, like you said with the action, they're going to be the containment people, and they're going to come up with the quickest solution, which is great. You know, the quick solution is great, but then they have to step back and say, okay, I'm an action person. Did I just bypass what the real solutioning and problem solving is? Because it'll come up again.
Absolutely. All right. And then finally, for the blueprint, again, they are all about step by step and following the facts and doing what's expected. So when their system isn't working, they're probably going to be able to source it out faster than the rest of us because they have the system and the structure. So again, but understand that them breaking out of their system and their structure is where they get challenged, because change is something that they avoid. So guys, thank you so much. Freddie, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so grateful you joined me. I always learn so much from you, and I'm so happy that I get to share you with other people. And I want you guys to remember, hey, we're here on Fridays, tune in Wednesdays at 5 p.m. for Clarity Corner with Christiana. We're going to continue to uncover what's blocking you and holding you back. And I will see you next week. Huge guest next week. Make sure you're here. Clearly? Are you drowning in clutter? If so, you are in the right place. At Clarity Corner with Christiana, we peel back the layers that are clouding your ability to see and show you ways you can reclaim your life and your communication. It's not what you know, it's what you implement that makes all the difference.
WTAN, Clearwater,
FM 106.1,
WDCF, Dade City,
FM 102.3,
WZHR, Zephyr Hills,
FM 104.3.
Listen.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Dell Small Business.
I'm Matt Piper in New York. The man who police say shot